Our culture teaches us that emotions are caused almost entirely by external events. If I change my job, I'll finally be happy. If I meet the right person, I'll finally feel loved. If I make enough money, I'll finally feel safe. Or if I move somewhere beautiful, I'll finally feel at peace. And sometimes those changes do help. But have you noticed how many people get everything they thought they wanted and still feel exactly the same? That's because changing your outer world doesn't automatically change your inner world. I'm Dr. Oscar Perez, the Soul Recovery Specialist. For years, I've worked with visionary entrepreneurs, leaders, therapists, and healers who had already changed almost everything in their lives. Different careers, different relationships, different cities, different businesses, different spiritual paths, and yet they kept experiencing the same emotional patterns. Not because they were broken, but because they kept returning to the same internal geography. One of the first things that we learn inside the soul recovery system is that your inner world is every bit as real as the outer world. And unless you learn how to navigate it, you'll keep living in the same emotional landscape no matter where you go. So today, I'm going to show you why your inner world is like a cosmos unto itself, full of different landscapes, and how you unknowingly revisit the same emotional territory, why changing your circumstances rarely changes that territory, and one simple practice that will help you recognize where you've been living for years. Modern psychology loves to talk about the mind like it's a computer, a machine, something to optimize. But intact shamanic traditions teach something very different. Your inner world is a vast landscape with mountains, forests, deserts, rivers, dark valleys, sacred groves. And every one of those places exists within you. You don't just have thoughts, you inhabit places. Think about how fast your mood shifts when you remember a painful conversation. Nothing changed outside of you, but internally, you just traveled somewhere different. Imagine standing in a beautiful meadow and then remembering the day that someone betrayed you. Within seconds, your entire world changes. You haven't moved an inch physically, but inwardly, you've walked into a completely different place. So start asking yourself a different question. Not, what am I thinking? But where am I right now? Because once you enter a place, everything else begins to change with it. Every internal landscape comes with its own climate, its own emotions, its own thoughts, memories, beliefs, and body sensations. When you're standing in the geography of fear, the world looks dangerous. When you're standing in the geography of gratitude, the same world feels full of possibility. Your inner world determines how you experience the outer world. Two people can live through the exact same event and walk away with completely different experiences. Reality didn't change. Their internal geographies were different. Imagine wearing sunglasses with dark gray lenses. After a while, you stop noticing the glasses at all. You just assume that the world itself is gray. Internal geographies work exactly the same way. So instead of asking, what's wrong with the world? Ask, what landscape am I looking through? And here's where most people get trapped. The reason that you keep returning to certain emotional places isn't that you enjoy them. It's that they're familiar. Human beings instinctively return to what's familiar, even when it hurts, especially when that place was formed in childhood. Your nervous system often mistakes familiarity for safety. This is why someone leaves one unhealthy relationship only to walk into another one that feels strangely similar. The scenery changes, the internal geography doesn't. Imagine someone who grew up in the desert. A lush forest might actually feel uncomfortable at first. And not because it's dangerous, but because it's unfamiliar. Healing often feels exactly like that, like entering unfamiliar territory. So ask yourself this. What emotion feels like home to me, even though I don't enjoy it, or even though it causes me pain? Because your inner world isn't empty. There are other beings that live there too, If this teaching is helping you see yourself differently, subscribe. Every week, I share teachings from the Flowering War and the Soul Recovery System to help Black Sheep visionaries navigate their inner world, reconnect with nature, and become the leaders that they were born to be. No landscape exists alone. Every one of them has inhabitants. Some are allies. Some are wounded parts of yourself. Some are memories. Some are ancestral influences. And some of them are predators. When you enter a particular internal geography, you start hearing the voices of those that live there, those that inhabit that place. Change the landscape and you change the conversation. Notice how differently you think after a day of hiking compared to 6 hours of scrolling social media. Different geography, different inhabitants. Walk into a forest and you'll meet different animals than you would in the desert. And the same goes for your own internal geographies. Your inner world works exactly the same way. So instead of trying to silence every negative thought, ask yourself, what inner place am I standing in right now? Because there's one place every Black Sheep visionary has to learn to cultivate. One of the most important internal geographies in the Soul Recovery System is what I call your sacred grove. It isn't imaginary. It's a lived relationship with the deepest parts of yourself. It's where your allies live, where wisdom becomes accessible, where your authentic nature becomes easier to hear than the predators of the mind. And you don't create it, you remember it. Healing isn't escaping your inner world. It's learning how to navigate it. The people who experience the deepest transformation aren't the ones who eliminate the difficult places. They're the ones who stop building houses there. Imagine wandering through unfamiliar wilderness. Eventually, you find a clearing, fresh water, shade, and safety. And from that place, you can explore the rest of the forest without ever becoming lost. That's your sacred grove. That's what it's like learning how to navigate your own internal geographies. So start each morning with a different question. Not what do I need to accomplish today, but what kind of inner place do I want to live in today? You need to stop assuming that your emotions are caused only by your external circumstances. Sometimes your circumstances are simply revealing the internal geography that you were already living in. Second, you have to stop trying to escape uncomfortable emotions by rearranging everything outside of you. A new city can't heal an old inner landscape. And third, you have to stop asking, why does this always happen to me? That question keeps you exactly where you are. Instead, you have to start noticing which emotional places you return to most often. Fear, loneliness, wonder, gratitude, resentment, or joy. You have to learn to map them. You have to start paying attention to what actually shifts your internal landscape. Nature, movement, conversation, music, prayer, certain people or certain places. Get curious about what helps you shift where you are. And start building a relationship with your sacred grove. Learn to visit it on purpose and strengthen it daily, because where you spend your inner life eventually becomes where you live your outer life. Tonight, take out a journal and draw a simple map, not of your neighborhood or of your city. Draw a map of your inner world. Label the places that you visit most often: the valley of self-doubt, the forest of gratitude, the mountain of purpose, the desert of loneliness, the river of creativity, the cave of fear. Don't worry about getting it right. Just notice. Then ask yourself, where have I been living lately? And finally, write one more question at the bottom of the page. Where would my authentic nature like to spend more time? That question alone can begin to change your life. Most people spend years trying to change their lives. Very few ever learn to navigate their inner world. But your outer world will almost always reflect the landscape that you've been living in inside. That's why the same lessons repeat, the same relationships appear, the same fears return. It isn't that life is punishing you. It's that your internal geography keeps bringing you back to familiar territory. The work of soul recovery isn't escaping your inner world. It's becoming such a skilled navigator that no matter where life takes you, you always know the way back to your sacred grove. If this video helped you understand yourself in a completely new way, then subscribe and share it with someone who's been wondering why the same emotional patterns keep showing up in different parts of their life. And if you're ready to begin mapping your own inner world, watch the free Soul Recovery Masterclass, linked below. I'll show you how internal geographies, the predators of the mind, soul loss, and your relationship with nature all fit together, and how the soul recovery system helps black sheep visionaries, founders, entrepreneurs, and healers stop wandering unconsciously and start living from their deepest, truest nature.